When you hear the word ritual, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably something kind of ancient, maybe a little mystical or deeply religious, right? But what if we flip that on its head? What if we started seeing ritual as a practical, human technology? A technology that's been engineered over thousands of years for one core purpose: connection. So, let's dive in and see how this ancient tool works, and more importantly, how we can actually use it today.
I mean, let's be honest. Have you ever felt just anxious, disconnected, totally overwhelmed by the speed of modern life? You are definitely not alone. We're living in this world of non-stop information, endless distraction, and it can leave both our internal systems and our social lives feeling pretty frayed. In this explainer, we're going to explore an ancient tool that might just be the antidote we've all been looking for.
Okay, so let's start with a whole new definition. Just for a minute, forget everything you think you know about the supernatural side of things. A ritual, at its core, is a really sophisticated psychological and social technology. Think of it like a tool, specifically designed to solve the fundamental problems of living in a group. Things like trust, cooperation, and just feeling like you belong.
Now, to really get this, we have to pull apart ritual actions from just, regular everyday actions. Think about hammering a nail. The link between what you do and what happens is super clear. It's transparent. But a ritual action, that's what we call causally opaque. There's no obvious physical reason why, say, lighting a candle or singing a certain song would create a tight-knit community. Its power isn't in a physical result, it's in the powerful social signal it sends. And we learn it by copying it exactly, not by trying to make it more efficient. That's what makes it such a powerful way to build a shared identity. So, how does this technology actually work? How does it get under our skin? Well, let's start small, at the individual level, and see how ritual can help prepare and regulate our own nervous systems. To really understand this, we've got to talk about trauma for a second. The thing about trauma is, it's not just a bad memory. It's a physical imprint that gets left on our body, and it can throw our whole nervous system out of whack. And what that means is that real healing can't just be about thinking differently. It absolutely has to involve the body. And this, right here, is where ritual shines. The science tells us that these practices work their magic through 4 key mechanisms. They give us rhythm, they help us make sense of our stories, they connect us with others so we can co-regulate, and they create this powerful shared symbolic meaning. Let's just take that first one, rhythmic regulation. Think about drumming or chanting, or even just taking deep patterned breaths. These predictable, repetitive actions send signals of safety straight to our nervous system. It's what's known as bottom-up regulation. Basically, your body is telling your mind, hey, you're safe, and that helps calm all that anxiety and hyper-alertness that stress and trauma leave behind.
So, you can see how these practices help us reweave our inner world. And this leads us to a really beautiful point. The very same threads that we use to repair ourselves are the exact same ones we can use to reweave our communities.
So now, let's zoom out. We're going to go from the individual and see how these exact same principles work on a larger scale to create really strong, cohesive groups. At the group level, ritual is an absolute powerhouse. It doesn't just make people feel good for a little while, it does real heavy lifting. It strengthens bonds, it signals who's really committed to the group, it forges a shared identity, and it allows huge groups of people who are essentially strangers to cooperate. You could almost say it's the engine of culture itself. The famous sociologist Emil Durkheim actually had a name for that incredible feeling you get from a group ritual. He called it collective effervescence. You know what I'm talking about? It's that buzz, that electric energy you feel at a concert, or a huge sports game, or a powerful ceremony. It's that moment you kind of lose yourself in the crowd, and that feeling creates an unbelievably strong sense of togetherness. But have you ever wondered why some of the most powerful rituals are also really hard or demanding? Well, evolutionary psychology has a fascinating answer called costly signaling theory. The idea is when a ritual demands a real sacrifice of your time, your energy, your resources, it acts as a credible, hard-to-fake signal that you are truly committed. This helps weed out the free riders and builds deep, deep trust among the members who are willing to pay that price. Okay, so we've established that this is a powerful ancient technology. It works on us as individuals, and it works on us as a group. So, how in the world do we put it to work today, in our busy, modern, secular lives? And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? The good news is, you don't have to adopt any ancient beliefs to use the technology underneath. We can design our own rituals based on these core principles of repetition, doing things in sync, and creating shared experiences. Let's look at 3 really concrete examples of how you could do this.
First up, let's go to the classroom. It's a space that, let's face it, can often feel pretty chaotic and dysregulated for both the kids and the teachers. Okay, so imagine starting every single school day with a simple attunement ritual. First, it's got repetition. You do it every morning, no exceptions. Second, it has synchrony. Everyone, the teacher and the students, taking 3 deep breaths together, which calms the whole room down. And third, it creates a shared experience with a quick, structured check-in. A simple 2-minute practice like this can build group cohesion and actually prime everyone's brains for learning.
All right, next, let's take this idea out into our neighborhoods and our community groups, where those social ties can sometimes feel a little thin. You can transform a simple potluck into a really powerful ritual. First, make it predictable. Let's call it the third Thursday gathering. That creates a stable rhythm people can count on. Then, you can build in a shared story prompt to get people connecting beyond just small talk. And finally, include a simple physical action everyone does together, like setting the tables or raising a glass for a toast. These little tweaks transform a casual get-together into a practice that actively builds community. And finally, how can we use this for ourselves, to manage our own inner worlds? You could design a personal ritual to close out your day. The structure is everything. Pick a fixed time and get away from your screens. Use a physical action to mark the transition. Lighting a candle, for example, signals to your brain that something is shifting. And then you bring in the narrative part by answering a few structured questions. This helps you process the day, make sense of it, and regulate your nervous system right before you go to sleep. So, as we've seen, ritual is so much more than just empty gestures. It's a fundamental human technology, a technology for connection to ourselves and to each other. And it's really important to see that ritual doesn't just exist on its own. It's part of a much bigger ecosystem that creates a healthy community. Things like shared stories, a sense of belonging, clear roles for people, even an environment of beauty. Ritual is the practice, the verb, that weaves all those other threads together into a strong fabric. Which brings us to the final question for you. Our world right now is increasingly designed for distraction and disconnection. Tech platforms use these powerful loops and repetition to capture our attention for their own benefit. But we can use those exact same principles of structured, repeated action to reclaim our attention and to build the connections that we actually deeply need. So the question is, what rituals will you deliberately create to reconnect?